pop is just an easy label to attack, the same as youth is, you know. People are just
Hey,
uptight because the
hey,
kids are
we're
having fun.
back.
And
This
they
is
didn't have
Tutorials
the same
by
freedom
Tux.
because they
Back
didn't
with
take
another
it. They just
tutorial, man.
followed the lines laid down by
And
their
before I do
parents.
what I love to do, I need to give a shout out to the Jawborn Sample Flip Off group. Now, if you haven't done so, I would like for you to get on Facebook right now, you know, and look up the Jawborn Sample Flip Off group. And ask to join, man, because there's so much greatness in that group, man. You know what I mean? It's part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today, man. I got inspired by so many beautiful souls, you know, that remind me of myself. So if you want to, you know, be underneath a dope umbrella of greatness, man, I suggest you go ahead and do what you know you need to do, man. You know what I'm saying? It's easy peasy, baby. You know what I'm saying? But yo, do that while we do this. Alright. Before I show you what my template looks like, if you didn't know, if I didn't say it, let me go ahead and slow down. I'm discussing the Tux by Tux template. It's my template. It's forever evolving, but from where I'm at right now, I want to show it. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to break down what it means to be the summon mixing engineer that I am. And I definitely want to start off with the aux folders, explain what that is, how I use it, some of the benefits. Talk about my aux filter that I've been using since 2015. Also show you how I combine and how I use my Vox bus and my beat bus together. And lastly, just show you some of the reasons why I separate my effects and some of the benefits of separating your effects when we get to that stage, alright, so with all that said, let me first show you what my template looks like and all that good jazz and scenes like scenes. Okay, cool. Alright, as you see way over here to the left, we have what's called MPC. I use an MPC in this template. I keep it open because I'm also a producer, so I really call myself a producing engineer, but most times I don't really need to use it if I'm straight mixing. But hey, there's times where the client's definitely cool with me adding more sauce, and if I feel compelled, I'm like, hey, say, bro, you mind? Bro, do your thing. Here you go, man. So that's what I keep it there for. And then next, I have the record track for the same reason too. You know, either they need to do some vocal adding, whatever, or they need me to jump on in whatever form. That's what it's for. And I've learned to do that over the years. So as a producing engineer, I have it set up to where I can produce. Even with my instruments, I can just add instruments in there if I need to. And I love doing track outs for that reason. But let's get to my template, the aux folders, and what we're talking about. Let me explain it, the whole template first. So, of course, what you're going to see here is a series of aux folders. So I have my drums, of course, and that's just everything but the kick. I'll explain in a minute why. Next to that, I have the kick and the bass. We'll explain why. Then I have all the rest of the instruments in that song right there. And then I have what's called a beat sum, which is actually what I call the Tux aux filter, and we'll talk about that later. And then after all of that, you know, I have the remaining vocals or however I needed to separate them. So in this song, we have the hook. Shout out to Gag, because I'm using one of his songs to demonstrate some things, but this is the name of the main artist, as far as my voice. And then over here's extras, so there's a whole lot of extra voices that go on the song. Now keep in mind, everything over here that's colored like this is our aux folders. So they're just pretty much folders with a whole bunch of other, you know, tracks in it, and it's just making it look neat for you. But the cool thing about them, you can still use them like regular auxes and put processing on it, right? And then next to that, I have effects. All of these in this color green are going to the vocal bus, and then everything over here in this color green is the beat, and of course the bass, and they're going to the beat bus. Then, but of course, I have the Vox bus, the beat bus, and last, the mix bus. And essentially what the mix bus is everything coming together from the Vox bus and the beat bus. And I'll explain more of these two when we get to that part of the tutorial. So let's go back to the top and talk about the aux folders. And I definitely wanted to start with my drums. And what I'm doing in this situation, and I'll explain why I have everything but the kick.
because they didn't take it. They just followed the lines laid down by their parents.
Primarily, generally when I mix most songs, the kick and the bass are like they're what the song is. You dig what I'm saying? If not, they need to be like, all right, you know, they're like the big focal point of what people are expecting to hear or feel. So you definitely want to be able to, you know, treat them as such. So I definitely learned from experience and just listening to other engineers, you know, as far as centering your kick and your bass. This is the easy way to do it, just separate it from everything else. So of course that's one reason. And then with my drums, what I'm doing, it allows me to, of course, with the aux folder, just have one processor over a whole lot of, you know, signals. So in this case, I already know that the rest of the instruments from the drums don't need a certain frequency. So I'm gonna just say generally it's gonna be 80 hertz. So versus me, you know, having multiple EQs trying to do 80 hertz cuts, I can just have one EQ do that 80 hertz cut on a whole lot of sounds. You dig what I'm saying? So it's an easy way to save processing and to apply processing. Like for instance, I wanted to have analog warmth. I didn't need to do that. So versus me having this plugin right here done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, because it would eat up some processor. This is a nice little plug-in lines. I use 2 primary subscriptions, Plug-in Lines and Slate Digital. They're $14.99 a month. You know, they got 2 great packages that pretty much allow you to do what you need to do. But again, this one is what I've been using here just to emulate a board. It's not even doing nothing. I ain't raising the level or nothing. It's just, I think I did adjust the gain a little bit. But outside of that, it's not doing too much. It's just sitting there. But essentially, that's what boards do. We just run them through boards. So I learned to have some type of I learned to have, you know, some type of analog emulator in that channel insert. So of course, this is a way to achieve it without having to, you know, bog out your processing. And then of course, you're treating a whole lot of, you know, sounds that need to be sort of treated the same. And in this case, I needed a lot of sounds not to have something, so that definitely helps. So again, the advantage of this aux folder is I'm able to use one plugin and it affect a whole lot of sounds at one time. It lessens the use of processor because I'm not having to use a processor like multiple times, or as far as a plugin, I mean. And then 2, it keeps everything organized as far as in the mix mentally. I know that, all right, nothing is occurring as far as like masking, because masking is, you know, when something's in the way of something that's needed. For instance, this would be a masking situation. I'm not even sure of what sound in here, but I'm pretty sure in a lot of snares, especially if it was recorded live, or even if it's like from a sound bank, sometimes in those recordings, they're not just like really EQing everything out of the room environment that is recorded. And even in the digital realm, you have to respect the fact that, hey, it might not have been recorded live, but it was recorded at some point in time, you dig? And environments are real. So if you're not sure of the environment of a recording, you need to act like it's staying recorded right, just to make sure you don't have no masking issues going on. And that will help, because what you're doing is you're taking out stuff, you know, so other sounds can have room. It's a big old puzzle, you know what I mean? So a lot of times what I learned is you take out stuff you don't need. So in this situation, that's why we have the drum separated. Primarily, is so I can take out a whole lot of what I don't need, and then my levels are going to be cool. I can compress it later on if I need to. Whatever you need to do, you can control everything else in that drum mix and just have it sitting right without having to process it with plugins. You dig what I'm saying? So hopefully that made sense, and hopefully you try it, so it can definitely help. All right. So of course, we'll show you some of these instruments, and of course, I'm not doing that. This is actually the whole mix. I didn't even do nothing. I just did a couple of individual EQs, you know, panning and, you know, slight level and whatnot. But one thing I learned to do, I really don't mess with too much of the level of the actual aux. Most of my level changes occur here or in the plugin itself. Definitely with vocals, I do a lot of level changing in the plugin. I really don't do too much level.
People are just uptight because
the first pass, that's where it happens, just to get where stuff needs to sit. But when I really want to commit to a level, I'm probably adjusting the level in the plugin somehow.
think that in new
It just feels better that way. I haven't learned if that really does make it better, but it feels better.
Would it be fair to say we're
Anywho,
getting away from the
that was just a little
property
extra tidbit.
concept?
So next, the reason I show the instruments because all of my instruments are going to what I call, actually still everything is going to what I call the beat sum, and I want to explain my beat sum. So of course I have the instruments, I have the drums, as far as the kick and the bass, all going to what is called the beat sum right here. And the beat sum is essentially an ox going to being sent to 3 other oxes. And what I'm doing with these oxes is I'm separating them by frequency. I have a low, a mid, and a high. And over here I'm just using 3-band EQs, and the first one is nothing but a low frequency, and then so on and so forth. As you can see, they're just giving you just that frequency and allows you to isolate stuff. What I've learned over the years, the main reason I started doing it in the studio was to fix 2-track beats. That's pretty much just MP3s and waves. And I had a series of clients that, were streaming or stripping stuff off of YouTube, and that's how they, rap. So a lot of times those beats weren't mixed right, and a lot of times it was just low end heavy. You know what I mean? So with this, what I would do is just literally go in here and automate wherever it needed to be, versus trying to compress it and EQ it out, because I tried that in the beginning and I learned that I was really destroying it and it just didn't sound natural. So I figured out ways to fix, I guess, beats that weren't mixed, you know what I'm saying, without making it sound like I was trying to fix it, and still giving me room later on in the mix to add, because I really understood what subtractive EQing was from this. When I was trying to just use it as a fixing tool, because later on I learned in post-production I can use it as an effect, and essentially it was the same process as far as me just automating. So like, if you didn't want to have no mid-range through a certain section of the song, you just go in there and automate it for how many measures, and next thing you know, it sounded like you put a filter on it when you didn't, when you just literally took out the whole mid-range. You know what I'm saying? So it's a cool thing to try, and all you're really doing again is just creating your aux folder and then having 3 more auxes sent from that. And of course pre is what you want, and then from there each one is going to the beat bus. So, whatever you need to, however you want to use it. Again, I used it to either fix some. Of course, now I'm not using it to fix. I primarily just use it as a post-production tool, because, I'm using track outs and I'm mixing everything prior to that. But if you ever were in a situation with a 2-track, this definitely helps, because I don't do them as much, but if I do a 2-track, I can still fix it and, post-production with it. And it does help with the post-production with the 2-tracks, because you don't have too much to work with. So if you want to move something in the track, this is definitely a way to do it. And it gives you at least 3 different options, and you can get very creative with this thing. Trust me, you can. But again, that's my Tux aux filter, but it's called my beat sum, because essentially that's what it's doing. It's summing up the whole beat and all that good jazz. All right, cool. Now I wanted to talk about the Vox buzz and the beat buzz. Essentially, like I said earlier, the Vox buzz right here is where all the vocals of the whole song are coming together. And generally what's being done there is subtle movements, subtle compression. In this situation, what we did is, and I'll show you what I did. I have this for the emulation, of course, as we discussed. And then next,
Love is very important to young people today.
I think
next I have an EQ, and I'm using the Dangerous Bax EQ. I love this thing. It's straight to the point. You got your little shells on either side, then you just have, 2 more to go. And it works great in this situation because, like I said, it's all of the vocals coming together. You shouldn't have to be EQing that damn much. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I'm just cutting out stuff it doesn't need. That's why I like this right here. It's taking out what it doesn't need. So I took out everything 43 and below, and then I did like a 17. It feels like 16 or 17, but wherever that's at is where it's at. But it's putting, hey, you don't go past here, and it's putting like you ain't gonna get none, below here. So I did a little attenuation. Looks like about 140. and then I did a boost over here. It looks about 3. So that's what we did, and then last.
But that's all very well intellectually, but when you actually are in love with somebody, you tend to be jealous and want to own them.
And last we have this over here.
Which I do, but intellectually,
And this is a mastering limiter. I like it because it acts like essentially it's a multi-band compressor with it, because you're able to compress whatever frequency, the low and the high, and then also do it with the sides. And this is very crucial at this part of the mix because it's the vocal. It's all the vocals, and prior in the mix I do have stereo imaging going on, which is needed. Between your wetness and your stereo imaging is how you create depth and how it feels to really be in a room. So I definitely love what they have here by Brainworks, because it gives me what I want to do with the multi-band compressing, and then allows me to still affect the sides and the mids, as far as where I have stuff sitting dead middle and where I have stuff sitting to the side. So this definitely helps again in this situation for all the vocals, where I can just a little bit. I'm not doing too much with it, but these little subtle moves give it that shimmer, that shine, or it takes away that thickness, whatever it is that you were trying to fix or correct. It definitely allows you to do it. And again, you don't have to do too much. None of these moves are drastic, but again, it's on the vocal bus and it's treating all of the vocals. And on this mix, when it came to the beat, again, I didn't have to do too much to this section here. Again, I just have this here. I don't think I did any dips. It's just there because everything else has the same emulation. So it's going to give it the same process, that same feel. And it's all feel here. We're not even talking sonics no more. It's just the way it feels to us. And believe it or not, we feel a lot, even if you're unaware of it. Okay? And so, again, with the Vox bus and the beat bus, they just literally come together, and I'm able to balance out the mix. So that is definitely the main advantage. And what I learned back in 2015 when I started doing this is it was really because I didn't know what I was doing too well, but it really helped me learn to where I'm at, to where it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing, to where now I'm not really adjusting anything with these, but if I need to, I can. Of course, I'm just, making moves with my pen, and most, again, if I am adjusting a level, it's done up in here. It's very rare I have to move these. If I do, I understand why. Either something's too hot, you know what I'm saying, or I just didn't do what I need to do somewhere, you know what I mean? But again, it's beautiful when you can have these two there and just see what it all sounds like. And a lot of times it's me just throwing a compressor on the vocal bus just to, tame that, or, doing a nice little dip somewhere in the beat just to take something out so the vocals can sit. And then again, when you get to the mix bus, it's like, it's a piece of cake. All right. So the last thing I needed to talk about was the effects, and just a quick, easy reason on why you want to separate them or keep them separated, depending on how you need to use them. So I start with 3, and in this situation, I really only use 2, but I have 3 of them set up, ready to go. I have a quarter delay, an 8 delay, and some chamber reverb, and they're all going to the vocal bus. So that means, nothing else is going to hear it if I don't need it to be heard. And the reason that is because there's times where if I didn't have this, and I learned from trial and error over the years, if I had a drum instrument, which I do have drum instruments going to reverb, when the vocal's doing something, then if you're going to hear the drums and that reverb, and it's not going to sound cool. So if you don't want things to sort of clash in the background and you're doing automation or you're taking stuff out, because there's times when, at least for me as a post-producing engineer, I would drop something out the beat. You know what I'm saying? And it's like dead space there, but reverb at times, if you're not paying attention, it's still moving, it's still being heard from another instrument that might not have been in that space that you want to take stuff out. So you just have to be mindful, and it definitely helps you not have to worry about that when you're just sending it where it needs to be. So if you wanted to be heard for the beat, then make sure that it's going to something that's dedicated to the beat, because when you're summing, you can get confused where stuff is at because you're sending stuff everywhere. So just because it's standing here doesn't mean it's going there. And with me being the type that uses the post and the pre, if you don't know what post and pre, then you need to find that fast, because it's at times where because I do everything in pre. So if you don't know what pre means, it means it's getting 100% in the signal, no matter what the level's looking like. It's straight signal, no matter what the fader does. When it's post, it's being affected by the fader below it. So I love pre. Some people don't agree with me, but hey, I'm a pre guy. I like it to give it what it is, and I'll tame it from there on how much I want my dryness or my wetness to be. So I like pre because it gives me more control of the signal versus then just trying to figure out why I can't hear it the way I want to hear it, you know. But again, that's up to you and how you use that. But again, I learned over the years, separate them so you know what's going on. It definitely keeps the mix organized, because when you start getting over a certain number of tracks, man, you're going to need a piece of paper, some pen, and you're going to have to schedule it. You're going to have to plan, you know what I mean? A lot of it can get done in a day, but that's still a day of planning and organizing, and usually in those cases a team. So if you don't have a team yet, then you better organize everything in your mix and keep it as organized as possible so you don't get lost in the sauce. Because it's very easy to get lost in the sauce, guys. I just want to say that. But again, let me recap what we discussed. We discussed the aux folder, which is essentially you putting a whole bunch of tracks in one folder to keep it organized, and also allow you to take one plugin and use it on multiple signals, and it lessens the use of the processor. Then we discussed what my beat sum is, which is essentially my Tux aux filter. I explained the initial reason why I started using it, and then also what I discovered from it as a post-production tool. We went over my box and beat bus, how I use those. I primarily talked about my box. I always want to say box, but the Vox bus, which is vocals. I showed what I did there, and you know how it's all subtle. It's very little, but it's very effective when you can, I guess, adjust or treat everything as needed. You know, I almost had a brain fart there, but we came back. It ain't stinky. All right. Then after that, I just, explained some more on, I guess, the importance of knowing, where your effects are being sent to. Because again, this is all summing going on here, so you don't want to get lost. So that was that, guys, and I'm grateful we got through this one here. If you have any questions, some comments as far as what I discussed today, please hit me up on my Instagram at tutorials by Tux. Okay, that's just for right now. I'm just doing that. I have no reason. It's like, hey, hit me up there, because that's where I like to be when it comes to this right here. It's a cool space on Instagram, and it's real easy to communicate, I feel. So hit me up there, then we can exchange emails, and we need to, we can do Zoom or whatever. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I don't mind answering questions, man. If you're serious, when I say serious, when you're dedicated, because you gotta shoot free throws. If you truly want to do this engineering shit, it's gonna take a lot of being alone, a lot of reading. And when I say alone, it's not like you're alone, but yeah, you don't have to be solo dolo to figure out you, if that makes sense. Alright, so hopefully what I put down you pick up, baby, and when you take your shot, you just go swish. Alright, I'm Tutorials by Tux, man. I'm signing out with a thank you, and make sure you continue to do what you do. Alright, man, that is that. This is this. Stay great. Peace.